The NBA Nation on this Friday afternoon, an early matinee edition of the NBA Report, man. CP the Franchise, Alex Trataros in the building. On today's show, we got to talk about the hottest team in the NBA right now. And to do that, we got none other than Clippers insider Law Murray. Covers the Clippers for The Athletic. And this is a perfect midway point to talk about this team, because we talked about this Clipper team with Law on the heels of the Harden trade, and now this team is clicking on all cylinders, man. So lock in, hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. The NBA Report presented by Prize Picks. Use our code MBAR for a first-time deposit match up to $100. All right, Law, welcome back, man. How you feeling, man?
I feel good. Thanks for having me back. November feels like a very long time ago.
Yeah.
More than 2 months for sure. And it's cool to see what's been able to transpire over those last couple months as well.
For sure. We were a little delayed, but for a good reason, man. You know, we call you the Clippers insider for good reason. You were out and about with the squad last night. So give us a little rundown of where you were and what happened there.
So just like New York, just like the period of time before those two games against the Knicks and the Nets, the Clippers had 4 days off. And then those 4 days, they introduced James Harden. They had a practice. They flew to New York, and then they had a practice in New York. They have 4 days off again this time, but they're not on the road. They actually get to be at home for those 4 days. And so Paul George, he had an event Wednesday night. I wasn't at that, but I was at Terrence Mann's foundation event. It was like a casino night downtown LA, and it was great. A couple guys on the team came out, members of the coaching staff, members of the front office, people who are very close to Terrence. And I mean, as far as players go, like I feel like Terrence is someone that I've spent probably more time around than anybody else on the team, just because of what he has going on off the court. You know, I got to spend time with him a couple seasons ago when he was a mentor to 2 young boys, and I got to write about that. And I knew that he was starting his foundation over the summer. And, you know, Terrence is someone that I'm really proud of the player that he is, proud of the person that he is. So I'm really glad I was able to support. I'm glad that everyone seemed that they were having a great time last night. I got a lot of walking time in. Yeah, you know, for some people, they can sit, chill, you know, roll some dice. Me, I'm moving. I'm standing in one spot. It's been here too long. Let me move. Let me relocate, you know. I'm a fly on the wall for those kind of things. So, yeah, your boy was a little tired coming home, and appreciate you guys giving me a little bit of time, man. There's a reason they ain't practicing Friday.
Yeah. Well, that's dope, man. That's dope, because, you know, on this show, a lot of times we cover the X's and O's, but I like to, when people like you come on and have those inside stories where you can kind of pull out, you know, who these people are as men and what they're into in the community. As you talked about, the growth and development of a Terrence Mann, you know, those are the stories that the people need to hear a lot more. So we definitely appreciate that that tidbit, and glad you had a good time. Now, on this team, last time we spoke, we spoke on KFTV when the Harden trade went down. There was a lot of adjustments that had to be made. Sacrifice, as you said. They got stuck in a 5-game losing streak. All the noise around the team started to percolate. But now here we are. Since then, I mean, they're ripping off winning streaks. You had, what was it, a 5-game winning streak recently. You had a 3-game winning streak here, a 9-game winning streak. I mean, what's been the keys for you for this Clipper turnaround? Because they're the hottest team in the league.
Well, it starts with talent, and it starts with health and consistency, stability. You know what you're getting out of guys. And, you know, it's health of star players for the most part compared to recent years, because they're not healthy now. They weren't healthy in as soon as the Knicks game was over, because Mason Plumlee was carried off the court in that game. You know, now Mason has to start because of Vince Zubac, a guy who never misses time.
Yeah,
he's going to be out of the lineup for, I would anticipate, they say 4 weeks, but I mean, to come back to play the last 3 games before break, unless he's 100% and they absolutely need him, I think that they could possibly get him a couple more weeks away. So, I could see him missing 6 weeks and being ready for that back to back after the All-Star break is over. But James Harden became the he when he first started, he was the shooting guard. Russell Westbrook was still the point guard, and that was just a matter of respect.
Yeah.
I said when the trade happened, when we were trying to figure out lineups, I was like, well, Tyronn Lue has empowered Russell Westbrook all year. I don't think this is going to just be well, you're not going to be starting anymore thing. They try to have it both ways, and it was a understandable and respectable decision, but a time had to come where James had to be the point guard in the starting lineup, and Russell had to be the point guard in the second unit. And a guy like Bones Highland had to be out of the rotation. Again, not a guy who played poorly or has acted out or anything like that, but you can only play so many guards.
Yeah.
Norman Powell has played every single game. But what that did was everybody has sacrificed and everybody has looked better for it. Russell Westbrook is a starting point guard in this league, despite what people criticize him for. But as a backup point guard, he is able to give you even more energy in a period of time where he is much more likely to help you than hurt you. James is not scoring at the rate that he was in Philly and Brooklyn, let alone his historic run in Houston. However, James is happy to make other people happy. And Kawhi, he's touching the ball less. He's being asked to do more, but he's been extremely effective as the leader of this team. And then there's Paul George. Paul is on the ball less than he ever has been as a Clipper, even going back to his year with Doc Rivers, where he came out of that year not feeling like he was himself. Well, he's running fewer pick and rolls than ever as a Clipper. Remember, they asked Paul to be the point guard basically when Tyronn Lue took over as head coach. Now he's running a lot less pick and rolls, but he's spotting up and has been one of the best shooters in the league, whether you're a star or a role player. And that has been incredible for the team. That's why they're so good right now. They are one of the best shooting teams in the league, despite the fact that it's not a depth of shooting. It's the stars all shooting at
Mm.
incredible clips, incredible efficient offense from, a relatively top heavy roster.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I mean the Clippers.
go ahead, Al. Go ahead.
No, the Clippers just been like on another level, and it's just interesting how all those guys have bought into playing efficiently at all those roles. And I got to look at the head coach Ty Lue for making all that happen. What has Ty Lue done to keep all these guys engaged, to buy in? Because it's a big challenge to have four superstars just buy into those type of roles.
I think Teron Lue, it helps that he's a former player, but not all former players treat guys the way Teron Lue does. Teron is one of those guys who he can talk to anybody on the roster. He can
Mm.
talk to guys who are stars. He can talk to young guys. He can talk to veterans who have to have their roles fluctuate on a nightly basis. And he can put guys in positions to succeed. He has so much in terms of just that respect that just comes when you walk into a room. It's like if you knew Tyronn Lue's story, it's like he played with Kobe, he played with Shaq, he played with Michael Jordan. He played for all these coaches like Phil Jackson. He got to play for Doc Rivers briefly, but Doc was the one who gave him his first opportunity to be a coach because Tyronn Lue didn't go through his NBA career thinking he was going to be a future coach. Someone saw that in him first, and that kind of comes through, when you see how he interacts with guys, when you see that he's not the coach that gets mad at these press conferences.
Mm.
He's not the coach that, throws shade, and subliminal messages. He has a level of accountability where he'll take the fall for guys, but damn it, they better reciprocate that and play hard for him. They better understand that he's trying to make things work for the greater good of the team. And I didn't think last year was a good year for him, considering the standard that he set for himself, not just with the Clippers, but obviously he has a ring. People like to take that ring away from him, but go and find me another coach who led their team to a comeback down 3-1 in the NBA Finals. It's been 8 years and it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
It never happened before. So Tyronn Lue is already a unique individual, and he didn't panic. He has exercise patience. I think last year being so difficult and so frustrating for him gave him the perspective this year to be even better, and that's scary because it's not like the team fell out last year. They still had a winning record. They still made the playoffs. They still grabbed that first game in the series against the Suns before, Kawhi got hurt. So, Tehran is an elite head coach.
Yeah.
He will be compensated as such sometime in 2024, mark my words. And his ability to understand how guys need to be put in position to succeed and get that buy-in and to consistently get it and to still continuously raise standards, I'm sure other coaches could do it, but he's the one who is asked to do it now, and he's done that.
And once again, we're talking to Clippers insider Law Murray, who covers the team via The Athletic. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. And Law, when I look at this Clipper turnaround, after the Harden trade, I said it's a lot of moving parts. You got to let Ty Lue figure it out with the rotations, with the starting unit, how are these guys going to fit, how will they sacrifice. I thought a lot of the noise around the Harden deal leaving Philadelphia, I might be in the minority, but I thought a lot of people painted him in the wrong way. They just felt like, he was just going to cancer it up and destroy the Clippers, whereas I just looked at the Philly thing as a bad business deal. And so he felt like he had to stand on his principles, do what was right for him, and both sides did what was best for them. He goes to his Clipper team. He's go back home, a team he wants to play for, understanding the situation as a vet, as a former MVP caliber player, as a multi-time All-Star. I felt like we had to give them time to figure it out. And now he has become the point guard that this Clipper team has been looking for since the 2-1-3 era started, right? I mean, you look at Paul George's numbers now. I mean, Paul George's catch and shoot numbers, he's at 45% catch and shoot threes. Since the Harden trade, he's at 49%. I mean, the impact that he's had on these guys has been incredible. Just to speak a little bit more on that.
Yeah, my story Thursday morning at The Athletic highlighted Paul George's efficiency. He's he's in year 14. He has played for 3 franchises. He's played on really good teams. He hasn't made a finals yet, but he's obviously been to the conference finals 3 times in his career. And the fact that he is averaging career highs in field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and free throw percentage. I mean, you got to credit Paul, especially from the free throw line. You're the only one there. It's not like he's been a bad free throw shooter ever. He's shooting 91%. That tells you how locked in he is, right? That's a high level of shooting. That's some Reggie Miller stuff right there.
Yeah.
And then, he's translating what he can do just within himself by putting yourself on the field. So I like field goal percentage because even though there's a ton of statistics that we have to analyze scoring efficiency and shooting from areas on the floor, field goal percentage is a one size fits all. Did you make the shot or not? Period. It's the easiest thing in basketball. You can look at it when you play and pickup. Oh, I made 3 out of 5 shots, right? That's pretty damn good time on the black top. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he's shooting a career high there, that is a shot selection stat to me. I will always look at field goal percentage as shot selection. Do you understand where you can make shots from? Are you making those shots consistently, or is that a good shot or not? Period. He's having the best shot selection. If you look at it that way, the best shot selection season of his career. That is a big credit to James and the teammates around him. It's always going to be a credit to Paul because he's the guy who has to pull the trigger on these shots and make them. And then the 3-point percentage. Again, a guy who, as a rookie, his veterans laughed at him because he was such a bad 3-point shooter when he came into the league. He's worked his ass off. When he broke his leg, he lost something, but he also gained something because his focus on skill work increased from there. And so James gets a lot of credit. Paul gets a lot of credit. Kawhi gets a lot of credit. Kawhi is a star who doesn't need to have these shots or these points all the time to be happy. He just wants to win. He can get a win taking 10 shots, 20 shots, anything in between. He can get a win if, his focus is locking down and defending even at this stage of his career. So it's a unique group of guys. James Harden came into this league as a backup. Okay, he won six man of the year before a team, and then had to get traded to fully realize what he was able to do. Russell Westbrook. I told the story to somebody yesterday. Russell Westbrook, I think, was on a team that I forget how bad they were, but they moved to Oklahoma City. They lost a grip of games. They fired their coach in his first month as a pro. Like, you remember that when you're an NBA player, whether you're a star or not. So um, it's a unique group. It's a unique group. It's an incredibly talented group. That's why we're talking about them. We're not talking
Yeah.
about them because of the sacrifices as much as we're talking about them because those guys are worthy individually. Now they're worthy as a collective.
Well, now you mentioned all those guys. You talk about Harden, talk about PG, you talk about West, but Kawhi's on another level this year, man. Like, honestly, I don't think I've seen Kawhi play at this level since he was in Toronto that year. Maybe the year where they were in the bubble too, he was just on one too, even though they lost to the Nuggets that year. But can you talk a little bit about Kawhi's just uptick in production from what we haven't seen in quite some time?
He's healthy. That is the bottom line with him. He's healthy. He's shooting 54% from the field, 45% from three, and 90.8% from the free throw line since the starting lineup changed November 17th. That is high level efficiency. He doesn't get to the line as much because I don't know, there's how the game is officiated this year has changed. So it's always funny to me when people complain about certain things. It's like, nah, Kawhi's not getting to the line that much. Paul is getting to the line even less. Kawhi this time last year was starting to round into the form that we're seeing. He didn't have that first half of last year, coming off of ACL surgery, coming off of a sprained ankle that cost him nearly 2 weeks. He had to get a rhythm. He wasn't playing in back-to-backs. He didn't get to play in a back-to-back last season until the last 2 weekends of the regular season. And now you have a player who he was ready to play those back-to-backs from the jump. He was ready. He needed to make the adjustment. He was struggling when the team was on the 6-game losing streak. He wasn't getting any touches. There were four guys in the starting lineup who were non-centers and needed touches. It was clunky. The fit there wasn't good. But now that you got a guy like Terrence starting, Terrence man helps Kawhi Leonard so much because Terrence takes on defensive assignments, and then Kawhi at the end of games can do things like block Shea Gilgeous-Alexander in the fourth quarter, like you saw Tuesday night on TNT.
Mm-hmm.
And then Terrence also allows for a guy like Kawhi. Kawhi's still getting fewer touches than Paul and James. James is the primary point guard. James is looking for Kawhi and Paul. Unique situation for all those guys. Kawhi is the most locked in star in the NBA. There's not another star player you can put anybody up against. Kawhi is super locked in. You talk to him, doesn't phase him at all. He makes the right play consistently. He wins games and then talks about how his team needs to be better afterwards. He's super unimpressed with his own success. And in that, he wants his team to be successful along with him, which means he'll probably never be satisfied until they win a championship. So that's what's unique about him. He is a leader that leads by example. It's not everyone's cup of tea. People always got some shit to say about Kawhi, but
Yeah.
this team understands who he is and they appreciate him all the same. And it really helps when he's able to play all these games that he's been able to play.
And when you talk about leading by example, I mean, I look no further than that Clipper Thunder game, which was a great game. Is a lot of back and forth, especially in the fourth quarter. Thunder making their surge and making their comeback. Well, with 3 minutes, 8 seconds left, you had a vintage claw moment. Kawhi Leonard blocking Shea Gilgeous-Alexander with the left hand, and then coming back and forcing the issue, getting to the free throw line there. And from that point, it kind of turned the game around with PG adding in with his brilliance, 18 points in the fourth quarter. But Kawhi Leonard really making that statement on the defensive end. I thought that was his signature play of that game. And you mentioned Terrence Mann. I love him being in that starting lineup, kind of as that glue guy, jack of all trades, utility man there. But then you got the fire started Norman Powell off the bench. How do you like that dynamic with those two guys? Because sometimes Ty Lue might close with Mann, and sometimes you might close with Powell. How do you like that dynamic between going with more of a defensive focus with a man or going more with a scoring punch with a Norman Powell who can get it in bunches?
I thought T. Lue did a really nice job managing that situation Tuesday night because we've seen Norm more often than not close. Because Norm, when he's in that starting group with Kawhi, Paul, James, and Vince Zubats when he was healthy, it was like a death lineup. The shooting and scoring efficiency is lethal. Norm is on the floor to score and put the ball in the basket at a high rate, and he's doing that better than he's ever had. Again, another guy on the other side of 30 shooting and scoring better than he ever has. And that dude has a ring. You know, again, it's not like Norman Powell's a journeyman. Norman Powell is a player who last year told us he wanted to be an all-star. He wanted to, be on the level of the guys that he was playing with, and that's what you'd expect from a guy whose motto is understand the grind. But Norm didn't quite have it Tuesday, and Terrence was needed because the thing with Oklahoma City, shout out to that team, and the identity that they've built. I love these NBA teams because while everyone wants to say that the game is played the same, you just watch a week of basketball and you can say that it's not, or you can just say that you're trolling. Like all these teams are unique, either because of the stars that they have, the body types of the players, the schemes. Oklahoma City is the drive heaviest team in the NBA. So you need guys who can guard if you hope to survive that. And Terrence was needed. I mean, Terrence was out here blocking 3-pointers, blocking Chet Holmgren in the paint.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you need that. Terrence Mann is a player who, I say I'm proud of him. This time last year, he was starting at point guard. Did that mean that he was the play starter? No. Paul George was, but
Mm,
Terrence was the point guard to fill that role. He did touch the ball a lot more.
mm.
He was the guy guarding other teams' point guards. That's a defensive position as much as an offensive position. People have to understand that. Now you get the benefits of all the intangibles and all the off-ball stuff with Terrence without putting the pressure on him to create plays for others. And same with Paul George. So Terrence is a guy. His foundation is called Terrence Mann Complete Player Foundation. It's like the most apt name for a player's foundation ever because it describes Terrence to a T. He completes lineups. He's a high floor player. There's a reason he was valued as much as he was by the LA Clippers front office. There's a reason why he's not in Philadelphia today.
Mm.
And you're
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
that his ability to be productive without getting touches, it is critical to how the LA Clippers are able to get in and out of these games. So Tyronn Lue, he's done a really good job making sure that he gives both of those players, Terrence Mann and Norman Powell, the access to explore their complete games, depending on what the game calls for.
Well,
Good
do you have any
points.
concerns about this Clippers team? Because shout out to Fuzzy Flex in the chat. He says the Clippers are currently 22nd in rebounding. I'm concerned about that come playoff time. So, with rebounding being a weakness for the Clippers, do you see them going into the trade market and go looking for another center or power forward? What are your thoughts on those two issues?
I don't think they are in a position to get another center. Zoo's hurt, and he's been outstanding. This is the best I've seen him play, and the most sustainable I've seen him play. I've seen him have, you know, I saw him have a damn near 30-30, just last year. But without a backup center, he played too many minutes. He wore down and I don't think he was as effective overall. I was like, he can't be like DeAndre Jordan when DeAndre was playing a ton of minutes, right? But now he's playing when he was playing a lot of minutes. Like he's been outstanding as a rim protector and as a play finisher. So they'll miss him and they'll get him back healthy. In the meantime, Daniel Tice is needed as a backup to Mason Plumlee. Mason Plumlee in the last year of his deal he fits this team offensively. This team actually might reach a higher ceiling because Mason Plumlee is a better passer than Ivica Zubac is. So
Hmm.
he can unlock cutters in a way that you can't really give the ball to Zoo and have him throw some of the passes that Mason is willing to throw. So
Mm.
you're pretty much and then Moussa Diabate is on a two-way contract, and he's a player that the team values in terms of a developmental piece like Tice Plumlee. Again, they're eligible to be free agents 2024. Ideally, Diabate is their center or backup center of the future. So they don't need another center. They do need a power forward. Kobe Brown is a future piece, a developmental piece. They gave him multiple chances to be a rotation player. He's not ready for that role on this team. Maybe if it was a bad team or a team around 500, he'd get more of a rope. But this team is like not in a position to keep playing a player who, needs to develop. So
Mm.
even though he's an older rookie, he's a rookie nonetheless. So I think Kobe Brown is going to be a player that contributes to his team as soon as maybe next year. It would have been nice this year, but he's a rookie. And so Amir Coffey's been playing. Amir basically is who I look at as the backup forward at both spots. There's plenty of time for that because the starting forwards are literally Paul George and Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
So you can have one guy and it'd be a player of Amir's caliber. Amir is again another high floor player like Terrence Mann. Not much of a high ceiling player, but a player who is going to come in, do his job, and get out in like 15 minutes. They could use against certain teams, again, teams that happen to be huge and very good in the Western Conference, another piece. And
Yeah.
PJ Tucker's on the roster. I think PJ Tucker is a player who he has expressed that he would prefer to play for a team that will be able to use him. The difficult thing about PJ is, as at this stage of his career, what team is out there that is going to be able to play PJ? And so again, PJ was starting for the 76ers to begin this year. It's not like PJ is who he is. Like he's not a player who's going to have the ball in his hands. He's going to hit you. He's very
Mm.
physical. So he's preparing, he's healthy. Um, and I'm sure that the Clippers are actively looking to see where they could find a home for him, as well as that would open up a spot for them to bring someone else in. Don't know how they're going to do that just yet. I as it was told to me, like the kind of player the Clippers need is really the kind of player that gets a lot of money. You don't have a spot for that. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so any player that the Clippers bring in would not be the quote unquote perfect player. Who do they need? They need what they've needed for at least a year, and that is a power forward with athletic size.
Mm.
You know, like last year they had a surplus of power forwards, but they had they had an issue there as far as like who they were playing. Like Marcus Morris Sr., he's very good from a skill perspective, but he got old. And the
Yeah.
decline, he's not a starting caliber player anymore. As you are seeing from his time in Philly, he can still start and contribute, or not start, but he can still be in a rotation and contribute. But like he needed his role reduced, and that didn't happen for most of last year with the Clippers. Nicholas Batum is an older player,
Yeah.
long, very good. The Clippers miss him in terms of that archetype of player. He's starting for the Sixers right now. But even Nico, like Nico's not physical. He's very good at being able to defend every position, point guard, centers, everything in between. So it's nice when you have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard on your team, but even if they had Nico, it's like, yeah, they could have used a little more athletic size. Robert Covington, he's on the Philadelphia 76ers now. He's actually currently injured, so
Mm.
that's tough. But like they gotta get the Clippers. Yeah, the defensive rebounding is their Achilles heel.
Mm.
Um, because they're really good defensively, but they give up a few too many possessions right now. Finding that kind of player, don't know. There's a lot of players that fit that archetype that have major warts. We'll see if they get to a point where they do identify a good piece. Um, I've got some guys like Jalen Smith, I think would be perfect for this team.
Mm.
And maybe you keep an eye on that because the Pacers literally have added three players at Jalen's position since the end of last year. In Obi Toppin, they drafted Jarris Walker, and now they
Yeah.
have Pascal Siakam. But a team like the Pacers also could use Jalen Smith as a backup center. So there's no guarantee that they're like, yeah, we're giving him up. So
True.
a lot to see. But the Clippers have made their big move already as far as trades go. There's no guarantee that they're going to make another one.
Once again, we're talking to Clippers insider Law Murray, who covers the team for The Athletic. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys are also following Law on Twitter and at The Athletic. But on Twitter, it is at Law Murray, the NU. At Law Murray, the NU. With Zubac out for a month, do you think that could potentially hurt this Clipper defense, man, as far as rim protection? I mean, it's great that they have the depth now because when Plumlee went down, they were able to get Tice. Now you have Zubac down, so you have Plumlee and Tice. But those guys factor in, to me, more offensively with their ability to pass the ball, use their athleticism. But with Zubac, you had your physicality, your rim protection, your rebounding. Do you think they could potentially take a hit there defensively?
I expect them to.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to be tough for the Clippers. Like everything that you get offensively from Daniel, as far as, being someone who's encouraged more to shoot. And I touched on Mason Plumlee's passing ability, and Mason's an outstanding finisher, and he has good enough size for the center position. So the rebounding should be okay. But yeah, Mason Plumlee eventually, and he'll tell you, like, Mason's not a shot blocker, So with that, there's going to be a drop off there. It's not just that, Mason's not that good of a rim protector. It's that you're losing arguably a top 3 rim protector in the league in Ivica Zubac. Zoo doesn't block a ton of shots, but he is incredible in terms of defensive positioning. He's a guy that he's in the right place at the right time consistently. And the Clippers coaching staff challenged him to be even more versatile defensively than he has been. So you haven't seen Zoo in as many drops automatically. Like Zoo is capable of being a player who can be up to touch, a player that helps the Clippers put a little bit more heat on the ball than they have in the past. So Zoo's been a big key to the defensive success. He's playing with Paul and Terrence Mann and Kawhi and a guy in James Harden who, James is versatile defensively as well because of his activity. He understands defenses, and he's a big player himself at 6'5", 220 pounds. There's not a lot of hiding in that starting lineup. Who are you going to hunt? It's like, no, all those guys can kind of hold their own with respect to their position. So you have a weakness there. It means that because you don't have the same level of rim protection, you're probably going to see a more aggressive Clippers defense. They're probably going to have Mason. Mason's pretty athletic and decently mobile. As long as he's in scheme and not freelancing too much on that end of the floor, you have a defense where it's like, well, you got to defend differently. You can't drop and just be like, oh, do the same things. Because doing the same things, guys, is what gets teams beat, right? Like, I don't care if you're a good team or a bad team. Doing the same things, other teams are scouting you. They're picking up on things too. Like, that's what makes Saran Lue such a good coach. Saran understands that what worked in the first quarter, be prepared for a team to counter that, and then you got to have something else that works in the second quarter. Games are like mini playoff series. Like, you got to win games, individual games in different ways. You can't play the same way for 48 minutes. And so, yes, they will miss Zoo because Zoo allows them to do things at a high level. It means you have to be more creative defensively. But they have the coaching and the talent to be able to execute those things. And we saw a glimpse of it Tuesday. We even saw a glimpse of it when they lost in Minnesota. Did they lose the game? Yes. Did Anthony Edwards cook those Zoos? Yes. Did they give themselves a chance to win because they got fourth quarter stops? Absolutely. So that's something to watch for. This is going to be a rough time without Zoo defensively, but what they learn over these next 4 weeks is going to help them in the long term, ideally.
Yeah, and I mean, to add on top of that, Tyler likes to run the small ball lineup, so they should be able to be prepared for the playoffs by experimenting with this as well. But even without Zoo, this team's still going to be exciting, not only for this season, but potentially next season for when they have the Intuit Dome. So, well, if you could talk to us about the Dome and especially like the Wall, man. I mean, the Wall is like CP and I are Knicks fans, man. We see the code of conduct having to be the loudest, got to come with the swag. I mean, it just seems like Steve Ballmer is doing as much as possible to create a larger Clippers fan base and to get everyone engaged. Just talk about the Dome, though. The what you think about it.
Yeah, I got to be there Tuesday, and it was the first time that I got to see the progress of the building since draft day. Of course, the Clippers have this thing where they always bring us in the busiest days, man. It's like, you know, literally, my last few times at Intuit Dome, it was the morning and afternoon before a national and televised game, and then the time before that, literally the afternoon of draft day,
Wow.
draft night. So it's like yeah, I remember very vividly the last times I've been at Intuit, but like I will say that building is a reflection of Steve Ballmer. If you know
Mm.
Steve Ballmer from how he cheers the Clippers on and how he is in when he was at Microsoft
Yeah.
and everything, like who he is as a person, like he didn't want to have to build an arena when he became the owner of the team in 2014, but he saw how awful the logistics of the Clipper schedules were year in and year out, and it was
Mm.
like, nah, they need their own space. And there's a lot of trolls here in Los Angeles who they've wanted the Clippers to move to San Diego,
Yeah.
move to
Yeah.
Seattle, move to Vegas. Not, I love how they do stuff like fake righteous. Those franchises, those cities need a team. Nah, you guys, you guys just act like Los Angeles isn't the second largest market. And I know
All
y'all
right.
get a lot of that stuff too over there
Yeah.
in New York
Yeah.
because of the Nets,
Yeah.
the history of Nets Knicks. It's
Yes.
a lot of the same vibes.
Yeah.
So the Nets getting their building, obviously, I feel like has transformed their franchise, even though they've had a grip of unserious seasons,
Yeah.
as the Brooklyn Nets. The I feel like the conversation with the Nets has changed since they became the Brooklyn Nets versus what that team was in New Jersey.
Hmm.
And the Clippers have an even worse, franchise history in Southern California compared to the Nets in New Jersey. But they're in position to do big things with this new arena. Shout out to Inglewood. Like they got the All-Star game already.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
that area is already booming because SoFi Stadium and for the NFL has the Rams and the Chargers. And they've hosted a Super Bowl already. They're going to host another Super Bowl. So it's a transformative thing for the region. It will be a transformative thing for a franchise. It was huge that Kawhi Leonard signed his extension. I was going into the season saying, hey, Ballmer's going to be there.
Mm.
I don't know if anybody else will be. Front office, coaching staff, the stars.
Mm.
I looked at this as a last dance for a team that never danced before.
Mm.
And now, though, because of the short term success, because guys have shown that just because things were pretty rough last year, nah, like the emotions were in a good place. And now you got guys who it's like, yeah, I expect Toronto to be here. I expect the front office to be here. Kawhi says he's going to be here, which means that the other stars that he's playing with, Kawhi saying, you guys got to be here with me. That is
Yeah.
huge for a franchise. So that's what Intuit Dome is. It represents a pivotal keystone point in the franchise. Maybe they have a banner ready to go for that place. Maybe they have one next year. But regardless of the team success, that's a place where if you think about the history of the Clippers franchise, they've never had a place to call theirs.
Yeah.
Um, Even from a city standpoint. And now they will for the first time in 40 years in Los Angeles.
Yeah, man. I drove by the building on Sunday. It's an impressive building, like you said, right down the street from SoFi. You got the Hollywood Park Casino there, so a lot of development going on in the Inglewood area. Hopefully, the community benefits greatly from it. But Bomber, to me, he's the best owner for this Clipper franchise, man. And like you said, with the passion that he brings to the game, there's nobody better for this team coming off of the whole Donald Sterling fiasco. This was the best situation for the Clippers, and now the team is in a good spot. You got the team spearheaded by 4 local products. I'm sure I would have to think that the organization is hoping that they carry them forward to help with the marketing and bring people into the seats. But it's a great look. They get the All-Star game, no split with the Lakers. Like that's what they did in New York, right? When the last time it was in New York, which was a disaster and it was freezing cold, they gave the Nets All-Star Saturday night. They put the game with the Knicks. Both nights were horrendous, but I like the fact that they give the Clippers a spotlight for All-Star, and hey, it's a way to continue to bring the economic boom to the city. And like I said, hopefully the people capitalize on it, man. But yeah, great time to be a Clipper fan. And Law, we definitely appreciate the insights, man. We definitely got to do this again. Another check-in report, man.
And I think you guys appreciate, you guys being flexible with me. The next game I'll be at is the Nets visiting, and I know the Nets aren't the Knicks, but hopefully, I think it's tough for a team like the Nets, man.
Yeah.
Like, I feel for Ben Simmons. Ben's not a guy who gets a lot of sympathy or charisma or anything like that, but for him to work as hard as he worked over the summer just to not be able to be healthy after the first week of November again is disheartening. So I know that team is really going through it.
Yeah.
And that's the next time I'll see the Clippers play, and we'll see how this season continues to develop.
There you go, man. Well, safe travels east. Continued success. Continue the great work that you do in covering this team, man. I always appreciate your write-ups on The Athletic and your tweets, your insightful tweets. So, like we said, people in the chat, make sure you follow Law at Law Murray, the NU on Twitter. Law Murray, thanks again. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. We out of here. Peace.